And just like that, it's Good Story Live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July 14th edition of Good Story Live. Joined always by wonderful co-host who will be bringing up here in just a moment, because it takes a second. You know, you got to crank these things out slowly. Ginger, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear? Oh, here I am.
How are you, Ginger?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. We have to go back and forth here now. Hold on.
What's going on?
Well, let's just keep the camera on you for a minute while I figure this out.
Okay, that sounds good. That's fine. Again, I'm used to it. Oh, look, there we go.
You did it again, folks. Here's to that. Much less steep tea this time. Much more relaxed.
Cheers.
Last time, wow. Wow, that was chamomile at like octane level is what that was. That I didn't even know you could steep it that long. It packed a punch. It was like, you will be calm.
Did it work like that? I don't know that it worked. I don't know that it had that effect. That would be great if I could just steep the relaxation tea a little bit longer and get an extra punch of relaxation.
Yes. High octane.
Poe would be steeping your tea every day for you. Calm down,
right,
Jesse.
Exactly. She's so good at that. Ginger, how are you? Good to see you again.
I know. Good to see you too. I'm fabulous. Fabulous. I had a fun experience with my kids yesterday.
Your children?
Yeah.
First of all, the audience has never seen your children, and I've been saying this from the beginning. We need to exploit them just once to put them on camera, because they are truly some of the most adorable and funny kids I've ever seen. Your son especially has this very goofy, fun sense of humor that, I mean, it's the stuff that Instagram is made of.
It is, it really is. And right now he has, so we had two new experiences yesterday. The first was I took them to their first movie in the movie theater yesterday.
No way.
Yes.
You took them to Jurassic World Dominion?
Could you imagine? Oh my gosh, we would have had to leave during that one. No, Regal. I'm sure other
parent, obviously.
Yeah, no. I'm sure other theaters do this, but the Regal by us during the summer, they do their first showing of the day is a $2 showing for kids and families. And so each week, they pick 2 movies, and you can choose between, well, you could go both days actually. They do it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays near us. And this week they played Space Jam 2 and Sing 2, and I took them to see Sing 2. And it was so cute. The only challenging part was my daughter is not quite big enough to like keep the seat from going like this. And so both of them for like the first 5 minutes are just sitting there like laughing hysterically at themselves as they're like boop, with their legs like flying up by their face.
Where's Stella? Just
yeah.
And Clara, not Stella. Stella's our guest. Clara, I know her. I know your daughter's name.
Clara and Grayson. Clara and Grayson.
I will get that eventually. See, they're not on the show enough. It's not in my head.
I did take some pictures. I should have sent you the pictures beforehand so I could show them.
Because I lure people to the website with them. So go see.
Oh yeah, maybe if you want to see the pictures of them, they had their little kitty combo on their laps, eating popcorn.
Oh my goodness!
Watching that.
What did they think of seeing it on a big screen?
So that was part of the magic of it, like seeing them get super excited, because my kids, you kind of have to go through this progression of building up to be able to see a movie, like a full-length feature film. Their attention span isn't the best, right? So you kind of have to start with like the 3-minute videos, then you can go to like 30-minute shows. Yesterday was the first time that they sat and watched an entire movie. Wow. And it was so cool, like seeing them excited about it. He wants to go. Grayson wants to go again. Like he's like, can we go to another movie? Like,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, we can go next week.
Isn't that the magic people talk about when, actors and actresses, which hint we could maybe ask someone in a few minutes what her opinion is as well. But like a lot of that impetus and that early inspiration was, I went to see my first movie and I remember it. I remember seeing it on the screen, and that fueled the interest.
Do you remember what your first movie that you saw in theaters was? I think mine was Aladdin.
Okay.
I believe it was Aladdin.
The first would be difficult. I want to say Toy Story, but I'm not sure that's correct.
Yeah. Well, the first one you remember seeing and
The
that you
first
have
one I
memories
remember
of.
seeing was Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine
I
was
think that's
Aladdin.
right. Okay.
But it was very much even for me. I mean, I haven't been to a movie theater to see a movie in a movie theater and since probably pre-pandemic times, I'm gonna
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
So it also reminded me how much I enjoy the experience or how much of an experience it is actually seeing a movie in a movie theater. I know Kevin is super
Yeah.
excited about that because he loves going to the movies. Kevin, my husband,
To
if you
be
don't,
yes,
yeah,
to further ingratiate the audience with your family,
I
Kevin, the
know, I know.
husband, Grayson, not Stella, Clara is the
Mhm,
daughter.
mhm,
There you go. Family
yeah,
in Atlanta. I have to, the film has to be justified for me to go see it on a big screen, to go to the theater. So it has to be worth seeing on the big screen.
mhm,
Otherwise, I just probably
mhm.
watch it at home. But that's
Yeah.
me, I'm not the
So,
ideal moviegoer. I'm not
oh
what
well,
studios prefer.
yeah, you're not their target.
No.
That's why
What is
they
that?
have
The
to have
ideal
big.
customer profile? I'm not their ICP.
Mhm. No, no, you're not.
No.
No, you're not at all. But that was and then so the other thing that we did yesterday after we finished the movie, is Grayson is obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh.
Loves Sonic the Hedgehog. He's like, "Can we see Sonic the Hedgehog in the movies?" I'm like, "Maybe. We'll see." And he has been dying for blue hair. So
Really?
we
Like
went,
to wear it?
yes. Yeah, he
Okay.
wants his hair to be blue like
Got
Sonic
it.
because the blue hair is what's gonna make him faster. The blue hair
Yes.
and the red shoes are what is gonna make him faster. So, we went and I also have a picture of this. We went and we got, a spray blue, like it's a product that's a spray that you spray in your hair and it turns it blue.
Yes.
So we got that, and then we also got a shampoo that's supposed to deposit blue. So we did the spray yesterday. And it looks
Wow.
so cute. He was so excited, but he's leaving blue, like trails of blue everywhere in my house. Like
I thought for
all of
sure mom and dad would be like, blue wig will be fine for this assuredly temporary interest. But no, you dove right in. Blue
yeah,
hairspray. Where did it go?
absolutely.
I'm waiting for
Absolutely.
the story of your daughter being like, I want it too.
Oh, she did, and she had blue hair yesterday too.
Oh, well, there you go.
The spray washes out pretty easily, so I'm hoping it comes out of all the pillows that have now been turned blue by Grayson's head. But we'll see.
More of the
The
adventures of being a
shampoo,
parent.
the shampoo, I'm a little more I'm like, how long is this one gonna last? But we're gonna go for it. I mean, why not? It's just hair.
Yeah,
It's just hair.
absolutely. And it's temporary.
And it's temporary. Yeah. It's
Next
all
week it'll
good.
be green or some other color.
You never know. You never know with
Whereas
kids.
Jesse has had the same haircut since he was like 13 and has basically, I was bright blonde when I was born, by the way. I was bright blonde
Were
kid
you?
all the way through until
Mhm.
like puberty, then started dark, and now it is what it is. But all
Mhm.
my photos, people are like, surprised, bright blonde kid.
Yeah. I was lighter than this, but still some shade of brown. More actually, more like yours. I guess we do have similar hair colors though. Now
Yes.
that I'm looking at you.
We'll have the audience vote on that later.
Yeah,
Going
tell
back
us.
to the
Let us
movie
know.
thing for a second,
Yes.
it was a child's, or it was a children's movie that you mentioned,
Mhm.
and the question that we were going to pose today was, what
Yes.
film from childhood has created the biggest impact in your life overall?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, you posed this question
I
last
did.
week, and I was thinking about it a lot, and I'm actually curious to get our guest's opinion as well. So we're going to bring her on in a
Oh,
minute and
okay.
ask her
Yeah.
this as well. But I knew immediately what the answer was, and I can defend it.
Okay,
Um,
let's hear it.
Definitely, from childhood, the film I love and the film series that I love the most was the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movies.
Mm.
So Honey, I Shrunk the
Mhm.
Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. I loved those films.
Really?
Absolutely love them. Yes. Don't know. I mean, there's various and sundry reasons as to why, but I can say the main reason was it sparked my initial interest in science fiction. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
very simple, containable, digestible story for a young person with
Sure.
mild amounts of peril and cool scientific gizmos
Mm-hmm.
and kind of that industrialist, individualist spirit that upon which America built all the great things it's built. And I kind of picked up on that early on. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why this is a defendable statement is because the first two stories that I ever
Mm.
wrote when I was like 6 and 7 years old, which with multiple pages and characters and a bit of plot to them. I've reread them since
You
and
still
was,
have them. That's
oh,
amazing.
yeah, no one will ever see them except, well, no.
What?
After I'm dead, they'll be published in the memoirs. Be like, here's the initial stuff from author. The first two books that I
why
wrote
not? Why
were
not?
basically ripoffs of the first two Honey movies.
Oh,
And I
I
was learning
see.
the craft. I was like, I understand the story here. I like some of what I'm seeing, and I wanted to do it myself. So I rewrote the characters. I had slightly different situations going on, and then from
Well,
there, I branched out in other things.
for copywriting, that's a huge part of like getting into the headspace of writing. And the suggestion is to copy down, write literally verbatim, good copy, so
Yeah,
that you develop the rhythm, the timing,
that's
the
right.
tone, all of that. So, I mean, it makes sense. I, as a kid, used to sit and copy the text out of the newspaper. More so,
Really?
yeah, I did.
What kind of stories? Like just anything?
I I have no idea. I was literally, I would literally just sit with the newspaper, and I would sit with a sheet of paper, and I would just write whatever it said.
Fascinating.
And had more to do with handwriting, like practicing handwriting than
Okay,
actually what the stories or what the articles were about. But
very
yes,
interesting.
I do have memories of sitting upstairs
Was
with
that
my mom.
inspired from a movie, or you're just interfacing with my writing story as well?
I'm just
Because I was
interfacing,
curious
yeah.
what your answer to this question was going to be.
So mine, we did this question or similar question with my sister. And when she was on Alex Wilson, we'll link to that in the show notes if you want to check it out. And I answered something different. But I'm going to go back to what we've already talked about multiple times on the show, which is Beauty and the Beast. That
Oh,
was the
yes.
animated. Uh,
Right.
because not
That
only
had
did
a
I
huge
love,
impact.
huh? Yeah,
That
it
had a
did for
huge
me.
impact on you. Yes.
It did. It was the first character that I felt like I related to. It was the first, she was kind of headstrong. She didn't fit in, and I didn't feel like I felt fit in at all as a kid. Um, she had brown hair like me. Like there were so many things like,
Yeah.
but she impacted me so much that I remember, and my sister and I talked about this on that episode, or from her perspective, but we had those standardized writing tests growing up in Florida. I don't know if all of the other states have that same sort of Florida, whatever, Florida Writes, I think it was called. But one of my topics one year was to write, about a character from a book, a movie, a film that I loved
Oh,
and why,
wow.
and explain that. And I remember I was like, oh, I'm going to write about her. And I ended up getting I ended up getting a really great score on that, because I was able to articulate what I loved about that character. And I know
That's
there's a lot of
great.
people, yeah, I
You should dig
really
that up
liked her.
and we could reread it and see
If,
what your essay
i-
was composed of.
if I could, I have a folder at my parents' house that has some of those sorts of things in it.
Yes.
Maybe next time
We
I'm
all have
there,
that
I'll
folder.
see.
We all have that
I
folder at our
know.
parents' house.
Talk about one of the things that you don't realize when you become a parent is like, I now have to start that folder for my
Yes.
kids.
Yes. The torch has been handed.
Yeah,
Um,
I know.
let's bring on our guest here. We'll introduce her, and then we're going
Mhm.
to pose to her the same question before we dig into the more interesting and serious parts of her life. Kimi
Yes.
Rutledge is joining us today on Good Story
Hi.
Live. Kimi, how are you?
Hi.
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Kimi is joining us live from Seattle, Washington, which is a
Yes.
place I
Mhm.
called home for many years. If you have never been there, It is a beautiful, gorgeous part of the country. You should absolutely visit the Pacific Northwest. This public service announcement is now over. Okay. Kimi Rutledge is joining us. Let me just read a quick bio here. She's an actress based out of the Pacific Northwest. She was born in Tokyo, and she moved to the States with her family when she was 5 years old. She studied theater and film and stand-up comedy. Kimi is a jack of all trades, and she's been pursuing her professional acting career for many years as a bachelor's degree from the University of Washington. This is the oh shucks point, Kimi, in this part of the interview. We just gush over you because we're so happy to have you. Kimi, thanks so much for joining us. And let's pose this question before we dig into the rest of your interesting life. Is there a film from childhood that had a tremendous impact on you?
That's a good question. I was thinking about and listening to you guys talk about it. I think for me, I had so many different introductions to media at the same time that it kind of all glommed into it all impacting me in one way. But I would say the real trigger was Disney movies.
Yeah.
I was born in Japan. I lived there until I was 5. And I would get packages from America from like my dad's family friends, and they would just send us VHS tapes of the Disney movies. And so I would watch that all the time, except they were dubbed in Japanese. So it was Japanese and English playing at the same time. Yeah. And a lot of them ended up actually just being sequels to the original movies. So I kind of was watching the second Beauty and the Beast and the second Little Mermaid thinking they were the first ones. Yeah. So my Disney knowledge was a little all over the place. But I think Disney movies really drew me to just that kind of magical storytelling. And then I would say I really was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would ask to watch that pretty often, apparently. I would ask to watch it almost every day.
What was it that you loved about The Wizard of Oz?
I honestly don't remember.
It was the flying monkeys, right?
Flying
monkeys.
Exactly. Yeah, that wasn't terrifying. No, I think I was just so young that just like the wonder of things moving on a screen and like the emotion. I was just really an emotional kid. And I mean, I would make my mom play me sad music, and then I would sit in the corner and cry.
That's me now.
Right? Relatable. It's relatable. It was alarming when it's a child. Right now, that's a big mood. But yeah,
you get that Kimi has the better word for it. I have the more uncomfortable word for it because I like that word because I used it in my novel and I found it and it's a medical term. But do you get the piloerection, like the when you
Frisson.
listen to what's the other word? The more
Frisson.
PC except frisson. Well, the goosebumps on your skin when you hear certain types of sounds and tonal qualities in different music. Because Ginger and I have talked about this and we both share that.
Oh, I didn't know that had a name.
It does have a name.
The better name is piloerection.
Yeah.
I was like, excuse me?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Let me explain.
Show.
Yes. I get that for sure. I know we've talked about I got that yesterday when we were in the movie theater with my kids, watching them have that experience for the first time.
Yeah. I think visuals and storytelling I've always been drawn to that. So I think it's hard to pinpoint one movie. I think there's different movies throughout my life that triggered different eras of creativity for me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And TV was a huge influence. I think TV was when I was like, I want to be an actor.
Oh,
well, that
really?
was going to be our first question. So what was some of the impetus that grew into you deciding to pursue this as a career? And I'd assume some of what you watched,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think in terms of the career aspect of it, I wanted to pursue acting because I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. And it kind of made sense for me to go into acting. I feel like I'd been acting before I even knew what acting was. Like when I was a kid, I would watch TV shows and I would just go to my parents and be like, how do I like do that? Can I get on TV? Because I could do that. I was a little cocky.
I can see that. I can already picture it. Yes.
But
aren't all actors really? Don't you need a little bit of that?
You need to be a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I was a little bit like, kind of like, oh, I could do that. I could sing and dance for you. I'll do that. Like kind of shameless. And my parents were like, well, we'll put you in theater, because I think they were wary of, pimping me out as a child. Yes. And so they were like, okay, they wanted to make sure I didn't just want to be famous, and that I actually just really enjoyed acting. And so
Gotcha.
they put me into theater classes. And I mean, even before that, I would just dress up as people and try to trick them and kind of do method acting as a kid. But it was really boring. Like I would dress up like an old man and then come to the door and just act like an old man and like read a newspaper and then leave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I loved I'm
getting all these memories from my childhood as well, man.
Right?
Yikes.
Yeah. So I think
awesome.
I always liked,
but wise parents on your side too, for like seeing theater, like, well, let's test this out. Theater is always known as the gateway drug into other forms of acting. That was very wise of them. Absolutely.
It was.
Now,
I appreciate that.
Was there, not just in theater, but eventually as you branched out into other things, were there certain types of roles that you gravitated to naturally, and maybe if not roles, then dramatic versus comedic? Are there certain things that you like more than others, and do you tend to kind of drive yourself for that?
Yeah, I think I was drawn primarily to comedy first, because I was really I just loved consuming comedy. And I also liked writing comedy from a young age. And comedy was a big stand-up, and comedy was just like a huge part of the media we watched as a family, like just so commonplace. Sure. Yeah. And so I think I was really drawn to comedy first. And it was also, I mean, I was an ugly duckling kid. I was an ugly kid. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get by on how I look. So I got to make them laugh. So that's kind of how I
Did you used to write your own jokes as well as a kid?
I kind of would. It was less like writing jokes, and it was more like every school project that involved writing, I would do it satirical, or I would make it sort of like somewhat comedic in some way. I think just finding ways I can exercise that, and then also being kind of a class clown, like
and bringing in like the kind of the physical comedy, which I know is part of is talking about like stand up and performing. That's very much a genre and a part of it.
Yes,
and definitely. You do stand up as well, right?
Yeah, I did stand up for a few years, and I haven't done stand up in a long time, and I kind of transitioned more into comedic acting training after stand up. But stand up, I feel like really changed sort of the way I approach my work and approach acting, and I suggest everyone do it. And I'd love to go back to do it. I think acting has it's been busy, so it's been good, but stand up is so fun.
I have questions about that.
Yeah,
I have as someone who is, I'm going to be full disclosure here, I've always wanted to try it. I've always felt like I have enough material. I would love to try it, but I guess I'm not really sure how to get started. Like, how do you aggregate all of these jokes and stories and exaggerations that you want to weave into a narrative, which I'm good at, narrative writing, but how do you prepare and test out material ahead of time? How do you even begin that?
That's a great question. I think everyone has a different process. For me, I don't like having anything be forced. So I would just try to free write and be like, okay, Kimmy, what do you want to write about today? And then I just like make myself just write. And it can be nonsense. It could be just like a page of thoughts, almost just like vomiting on the page. And from there, I also go, if that doesn't spark anything, I'll do lists of, things that I hate, like recently things that I've hated, recently things that I've loved, and kind of lists actually really help in sort of organizing, compartmentalizing my opinions. And then I find interesting takes from just that. And then I can find sort of funny,
seeing the world
bits within that.
Slightly new way.
Yeah. And I think too, what do I want audiences to take from what I'm saying? Like, do I have a fresh take? Yeah. What is this take? Is it interesting? And sometimes I'll just have I'll have a category, sort of a overarching category, and then write bits about that. So maybe it's about, you know, my frustration with being biracial in a monoracial world, you know, and then I'll just have bits like that, and then kind of just throwing out ideas, and then I can start to puzzle it together. And
how did your first stand-up session go? Like, what was that experience like?
So cringy, but it was really fun. But so, like, I bombed.
Yeah.
Bombed, but it was valuable. It was a valuable experience. And I didn't stop. I didn't give up.
Yes, and that's like that's the big thing, right? Is you did it. And I feel like anytime you're doing something that is new like that, right? It feels cringy. And you kind of almost have to like really embody and like really go for it and embrace the cringe. I feel like the people that do end up doing really well embrace that cringe, either about themselves or about what they're talking about, and fully commit, and just like it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And the more that you
committing to the bit. Yeah. No, I think that's because audiences don't want to see the comedian be nervous. Audiences don't want to cringe. So if you have a moment doesn't land, I would always just redirect it and make a self-deprecating joke about how the joke wasn't good, and then you get the audience back, because you're showing them, don't worry, I got this. And even if something's not funny, it's just the recovery that they're waiting for, essentially.
It's like, I knew where I was going. I've known where I was going.
yeah. It's just that. Stay confident. It's cool. No big deal. We keep moving.
It's all good.
It's all
Jesse could totally either do stand up, or I would love to see you do improv. You know?
Yeah, because I bomb all the time. So
I
mean, I'm used to it.
Yes, I'm used to absolute silence after making a joke. It's perfectly fine.
You know, if you got really comfortable with the silence, though, that would make it even more. Like, if the more comfortable I feel like you could be with the silence,
right? The recovery.
Yeah, you'll command the room.
Oh yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Absolutely. I just go back to my radio days, but like, sorry, folks, dead air time. You know. I want to pivot a little bit here and talk about how you made the transition into television and movies. But we're going to start with one question specifically, and we're going to show a clip. I have questions about how you got on the TV show Shrill.
Yes.
With Aidy Bryant, who I'm a huge fan of from SNL. Love Aidy Bryant.
Yes,
I mean, some of the funniest SNL routines were just her completely losing the script and just taking control of the show. Like, absolutely the funniest stuff. Yeah. But so maybe that's not the best place to start as far as a linear story, but can you tell us how you got into getting roles like that? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was sort of I was kind of lucky with it. I mean, it was shooting in Portland. Shrill was shooting in Portland, and they would send out casting calls to the Portland area and also the Seattle area. And I got an audition for it, essentially. And I remember it was like my kind of first bigger audition, and it was just a co-star, so I just had like a few lines, and I remember spending hours on the self-tape, and because I love Aidy Bryant, so I'm right there with you. I was like, oh my god, like, to be able to work with Aidy Bryant like in any capacity.
Now wait, did you know that you would be in the same scene with her, or you just thought, oh, you'll be an extra on the show, it will be what it'll be?
I knew it was her because I'm talking to the lead, and I knew the character's name because this was season 2, so it had a season already.
Wow.
And so I knew, I was like, I have to make a impact, in my 5 lines. So I spent hours doing it, and I added a little improv at the beginning, a little improv at the end. And in the audition submission, they also have you write like a paragraph about yourself. And I knew that had to be funny because this was a comedy. And I was like, okay, write something about myself. And so I wrote a weird little paragraph about how I used to collect stickers. And I don't remember exactly when I wrote, but I just remember it being a little offbeat because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna write this weird little paragraph and see what they think. Because it's always when
it was offbeat enough. It worked.
It was offbeat enough. Exactly. I think it was funny. I don't quite remember what I wrote, but it was a self-deprecating, kind of the tone I have always taken.
That's awesome.
And they really liked it. And then I ended up finding out, I didn't get any callback. I didn't go in at all. It was only off a self-tape. And I found out got it a week before. And my last final for college was that following Thursday. And they're like, you might shoot Thursday or Friday. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, wow. So I was just fingers crossed. And it ended up being the day after my final. So I drove down right after my last final and after graduating, and then just drove straight down to Portland and got 2 hours of sleep. And
I'm sure.
I had diarrhea the whole day because I was so nervous.
Well, you looked fine. Let's show everyone the clip and then we'll talk about it. And everyone's going to be like, wow, I can't believe she got 2 hours of sleep and was having, lower intestinal issues. I would have never known. Here's the clip from the Hulu original show Shrill, and we'll come back and chat about it in a minute.
Put it on before the keynote begins.
Oh, well, this won't fit me. It's a small.
Sure it will.
Do you maybe have like a double XL or?
No, but we do have a generous medium. They are huge. It's like a dress on me.
Oh. Well, thank you.
I love that scene so much. Just so, just so ignorant of the situation in which you find yourself. It's great.
Mm-hmm. So oblivious.
What was it like working with Aidy Bryant? Was it,
amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. It was, because I looked up to her so much, and she came up to me when we were shooting, and she was just like, hi, I'm Aidy. And I'm like, I know. Hi, I'm Kimi. And she was like, oh, what are my lines again? And then just reads the script. And it's so funny, how casual the actors were, because they're pros. She's on SNL. She learned her lines like that. Vanessa Bayer was on the same episode, and she, remember, just picked up her script and was like, what are my lines? Okay. And she had a whole monologue. But that aside, I was just I spent a week practicing my 4 lines obsessively. Okay, I gotta get it right. And so just to see the casualness and confident and cool, it was so inspiring. And they were so nice. Everyone was so nice. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wonderful. You love hearing that about people that you love and look up to and admire. Because, it could go, it's a toss-up. It could go either way. Sometimes, there's a saying, you shouldn't meet your heroes,
Exactly. I was nervous about that. I was like, is she going to hate me? Fire me?
Right. I'm so glad that it was a good experience. And
how many takes? I'm just curious. How many takes was that, or was that a mesh of different takes that they edited together?
It seemed like a mesh of different takes. The director, I don't know if you guys know Natasha Lyonne. She was on Orange is the New Black, and she directed it. I was also a fan of her on Orange is the New Black, so it was kind of like I was coming at all angles with people. I was like, oh my god. But she was really fun, and we did a few different takes that were tonally very different. So, and as an actor, I love that. I love when you just get to play a little. So we did a few different takes. One that was a bit more oblivious, one that was a bit more pointed and kind of aware of what they were doing. And they went the more oblivious route.
So you mean there's a dark version of this scene somewhere?
Yeah.
Oh man. Maybe on the DVD, on the season 2 release, it'll be on there somewhere. The dark scene of Kimi Rutledge.
The long-awaited.
That edit of Event Horizon that everyone's waiting for, that no one will ever see. That's what we're waiting for Kimi.
Audiences are just waiting for that, of course.
How do you deal with the anxiety, the nerves when you're preparing for a role like this, whether you're meeting someone like that or whether you're preparing for a role? And I'm sorry that I don't have the title of it. I watched a short film of yours and I loved it. And I was trying to find it in preparation for the show and I couldn't remember, but it was you looked like it was based more in the 70s, and it was kind of had a Pulp Fiction feel to it.
Oh yeah. Was it Blood Cargo?
That's what it is. I could not find the title of that anywhere. I thought that was a fantastic role and fantastic movie.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, Brendan Hickey, the director, he's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I encourage everyone. We'll find it online, and we'll link to it on the Good Story Live website later. It's not too long. It's more of like a mood and a tone film, but
Yeah.
it's a period piece. It's got a little bit of Pulp Fiction in it. Yeah, that was great. So whether it's a role like that or a role it's like, oh my God, it's Aidy Bryant, how do you handle the nerves? How do you prepare yourself for that? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. I think for me, I learned that excitement and anxiety or nervousness are the exact same physiological process in the body. So I've really learned to just kind of trick myself into just saying, "Oh, I'm excited," when I'm feeling nerves, because it's the exact same response. Heart racing, maybe sweating a little, adrenaline, and I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie too. So I think once I kind of channel it as like excitement, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and I would do that before stand up too. I'm like, no, it's not negative. I'm not nervous. I'm excited to go out there. And that's why I'm shaking. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
So honestly, that's really helped.
Absolutely. Because like you said, it's the same physiological response.
Yeah.
What a great tool
Yeah.
to use to your advantage. Like once you have that recognition and awareness of it, my gosh, that's wonderful.
And of course, it doesn't always work.
No,
but I think when you love what you do, at the end of the day, that you really like doing it, and it's not for any other reason. I think when I would be doing things that clearly I felt like I had to do, and the nervousness came in, it's a little bit harder to convince myself I'm excited if it's something I don't really want to do. But I think acting is so fun. So
yeah, if it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like
Yep.
I love that saying, and I try to remember that. Now, you clearly love, right, the acting and being on camera, but what about that post-production or production as well? Do you have any involvement or interest in that? Does your love of film spread towards that?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, I love post-production. I do some post-production very casually, usually just like for friends, short films and whatnot, and editing my own content. And I started in the film program in high school, and I actually was planning on going to film school for post-production. And then my film teacher kind of suggested I do more on-screen acting, because I kind of became like the one kid in class who was down to be an actor and everything. And so he was like, you should you're good on screen. And so I think that's when I started to really think about transitioning from theater to on screen, was because I loved film so much, and I loved the behind the scenes so much. So when I would be on screen, I was like, I know what you guys are doing, and at this level, I don't know what people are doing. Like they're way more advanced now. I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, I think it gave me a better understanding of also, how to be better with continuity on screen. Because as an editor, it can be so frustrating trying to edit and then continuity's off. So I think about that. I think about the editor when I'm acting. I'm like, okay, gotta make sure, Yeah, so it helps with that.
That's a huge piece that I like. I'm sure, again, everybody at that level, right, has an awareness of it. But having that experience in production as well as post-production, once you get into when you're in front of the camera, gosh, can just help you work more seamlessly, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Because I just know how annoyed I get when things aren't when continuity's off. And that's why on union sets, they hire a continuity person. So someone who literally just checks for continuity. And so they'll come over and they'll be like, oh, your hand was holding it this way. And so they can come and make sure that you stay continuous.
Is that how, scenes end up with a Starbucks cup here versus in the other hand or sitting somewhere else? One frame versus another?
Yeah,
okay.
Bad continuity. And that, because a lot of non-union or small indie sets can't really afford to hire a continuity person.
Yeah.
Basically, you kind of just have to keep it in mind yourself. And bigger sets, they'll have a continuity person. Yeah, but sometimes things fly under the radar. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of information about roles? Because I know you mentioned being on a union set versus non, and you have experience with both. Do you Do you get a lot of info on a role, and how do you kind of make that determination if you want to take it or not?
Yeah, it really depends. There are some roles that you get the sort of breakdown for, and the breakdown basically is just this description of the character age and gender and, traits. Sometimes they're really specific and very long. Like they'll go into their trauma. Like, okay, had this, this. And then there's some that are just like girl, 20s, this occupation. And so
alive.
I mean, yeah, alive, breathing. So that becomes more of a challenge when they kind of have less parameters. It gives you more creative freedom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would say if you get a character role with like a full dossier behind it, I can imagine that's good because you know that at least you're providing what the direction is looking for, but it also limits your creative scope. So you want something in between that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think something that I've heard a lot in acting circles, especially from teachers, is they say to always disregard the breakdown. And I think as a beginning actor, you want to hold on to any semblance of control you have. And that can really turn into, okay, how do I just book this job? What do they want? How do I give them what they want? Okay. And I've always found that my worst work is yielded when I'm not just following my artistic instincts. And so they suggest rewriting the character background to fit your vision of the character. So I actually recently had an audition for something. I can't disclose any details on it, but it was a big role for a big show. And the character description kind of described someone that is very the opposite of me, which I thought would be fun. And I ended up deciding, it didn't say anything about her being weird, but I was like, I feel like she's a little weird. I think she's going to be a little weird. So I played her I imbued her with a sort of just a natural weirdness that I have. And I did not hold on to the breakdown too much. And I ended up getting a call back and then going all the way, really very far. And it was because I just followed my instincts. And I think that's the hardest to do.
Yeah.
Trust that you may bring something they didn't even consider, and they don't know what they're looking for until they see it.
Absolutely. I love that. And yes, it is incredibly hard to trust your instincts, right? And lean into that. But gosh, sometimes like they're hard to ignore and they kind of nag at you. And it's when they kind of nag at you that you're like, you really need to lean into it, right?
Absolutely.
And yes, go for it. I love that.
Yeah.
Were you going to add anything to that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's something they kind of talk about, and like what you were just describing, they call like choices in acting. Choices, yeah. They're and it's.
I love learning the different
thing. Oh yeah.
Hearing the different language, that you guys use, and how you your. I'm going to perspective, perception, one of the two, but just like the subtle differences in how you view and the language and that you use, it's amazing to me.
Oh,
so
fun.
Choices.
Choices. Yeah, they really, there's a lot of emphasis on like making good choices, making bold choices stand out. And so many actors are like, what is a choice? Like, it can be really hard sometimes to know what do you mean? And I think a lot of it comes in the moment. And I used to overthink it so much. And then I just, especially this was a comedy, with comedy, I was just like, well, how would I do that? Like, what would be funny? I'm a writer. So I'm like, what's a funny bit to put in here? And I think, how can I always try to make it funnier. So I'll improv something at the end, and sometimes it's going to bomb and sometimes it's going to really land. So
inappropriately timed humor is my favorite. Yes.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I notice when I am the most free and when I am not thinking about what they want or being sort of result oriented, my choices end up being more authentic in the moment. And they can, I mean, casting and produce, they can sniff out bullshit like no other. They can tell when acting's phony. So I think that's the most important thing, is just being authentic and making authentic choices.
But I'm sure, again, that's got to be hard, especially when you're starting out and when you're trying to get into this business, right?
Definitely.
Leaning into that authenticity to yourself, leaning into those, okay, I need to trust what I feel, especially when you want to land a role and when you're excited about it, right? That balance between giving them what they want, but maybe they don't know that they want this too.
Exactly. That's why I love when you get 2 takes, because then you can kind of go a little off the rails on one of them, and then maybe you played a little safe on one of the other ones.
We had an actor on about a month ago who works out in Hollywood, and he was like, "That's the safety take. You throw, you know, the safety take is just to have some fun with." Pivot a little bit here to some of the other creative projects. You're a vastly creative person, have been involved in a lot of different things. What else takes up your time there in the Pacific Northwest when you're not acting or writing or doing some of that? Because I noticed there's a lot of different projects and things with your name associated with it.
Yeah, actually, in 2021, going into 2022, I joined the writing team of Joy Sauce, which is a new Asian American-led media platform, joysauce.com. And I kind of joined as a comedy writer and also writer for their late night talk show that they're going to premiere on their platform. So that has been taking up probably, a good portion of my time when I'm not acting. I am also
When does that
acting in
debut?
it.
That sounds cool.
We're currently working on a date that is coming out. I'm not exactly sure because we're still in the process of shooting.
All right.
We are about to shoot a musical number for the finale sort of episode. So that'll be really fun. And I think after that's all cut up and there'll be a release date. I think relatively soon, but stuff with like TV and film, like it's always so last minute, get it out. And then, okay, this is when we're releasing. It's like, so it feels like kind of really tense until like a week before. And then they're like, okay, it's coming out. So not sure.
A lot of hurry up and stop sort of
yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
I think in the promo as well, we showed a clip from you doing an intro for the Deaf Nation Expo, which I know you were either involved in or you were the spokesperson for, which obviously lends the question, how did you learn sign language? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I studied linguistics in college, and I've always just been a linguophile. I've loved languages since I was a kid. I think I just fell in love also with sign language because it's so visual, and I was a dancer, and so it kind of felt like just became muscle memory. And I took classes in college and just really bonded with my professor who was deaf, and just started to get more involved in the deaf community. And I just fell in love with sign language and the deaf culture.
I love it. And it's interesting. You're starting to see so much more of it now, and like inclusivity when it comes to sign language and including deaf people in the conversations that are happening online. And I know a lot of people are incorporating that into their own content that they're creating.
Yeah,
like there's
I've noticed that
there-
too.
Yes, and I love it. There's a tarot reader that I follow online on Instagram, and he signs any video that he does or any workshop. He's either doing the sign language himself or he hires an interpreter if it's something where he can't. But he's always talking about that, and I love that.
I love that too. There's so much more awareness of it now, I think. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I've noticed that where it's just way more accessible and inclusive. People are putting more captions on things. Like, I think people are just a little more aware of the fact that there are deaf people. Because I mean, it's a minority for sure. And a lot of people are like, oh,
Yeah.
right. Like, yeah. So I think my own experiences with deaf culture and the language have really also helped. Even, I think, acting helped my sign language, and sign language helped my acting.
For sure. It can also, I imagine, help you be add a level of animation to you too, because you can, right? even if you couldn't hear somebody, if you can read their facial expressions, you can read their body language, gosh, that has such an impact on what you communicate in a scene or just in life in general.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, like they say in acting is everything but the words. And so it's really what's the subtext of what you're saying? What are and I think, yeah, facials, body language. I mean, with sign language, I think I heard something about how deaf people or native signers have way better peripheral vision and are just spot compared to hearing people, just because that's their language. It's so visual, it's so spatial. And I feel like it improved my ability to sort of like visually receive information. And
Absolutely.
so valuable for acting. Yeah.
For sure. So, again, we asked this of our other actor that we had on, but what do you have any advice for people that are wanting to either get started or at the beginning of their career? Maybe they just finished school. Any advice for hopeful actors and actresses out there?
Yeah. I would say for me, just really have fun and focus on what's important, which is the craft. And if you really love it, just stay in class. That's where you meet a lot of other actors. That's where you get a lot of opportunities. And that's where you can make a lot of art and collaborate. So I think getting in class consistently and finding why you love acting, finding your sort of purpose within it, and also really working on yourself, because I mean, I think it takes a lot of mental resilience to go into this industry, and you kind of have to reframe your brain a little bit to deal with some of the strange things in the industry. So I think just having a strong belief system, and not necessarily religious or anything, secular as well, just something that can help you stay grounded.
A set of values. We all build that for our lives.
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
the same advice for handling criticism as well, as going back to the reason why?
Yeah, I would say that, and also remembering that it's a business as well, and it's not personal. It's not personal. So, and I think that's the hardest thing is a lot of actors I've met are like, I didn't get an audition for this thing. I'd be perfect. Like, and then they get really upset about it. Or they didn't book a role they really want. And for me, it's like these little mantras that help, where I'm like, okay, well, what is for me will not go by me. And
yes,
if I don't get the job, it was never my job to begin with. And I think just having these mantras, things that keep you grounded in your belief, it's kind of like fake it till you make it. Like, even if you're like, I think just begrudgingly keep saying it to yourself, and it will just become a habit.
Yeah. What is meant for you can never be taken from you. I love those that you shared too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, constructive criticism, I think it's part of the game. And I think I feel like if you really like what you do, you will want to hear it to get better. And so I think if you can't handle it, might not be the right industry for you.
I think, was it Neil who said, and correct me, Ginger, if I'm getting this not quite right, but I think he said when faced with criticism, you don't think of it as criticism from your production, you think of it as direction. Right? This is one step closer to us being able to clock out and go home. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's because you're a collaborator, right? Like, you're here, you're a cog. And I think when actors get a little too self-important, because let's be, I mean, we're not like doctors. We're not saving lives here. Like, we're having fun. We're playing pretend. It's valuable. It's valuable. And I think it has its nobility in a lot of ways. But I think being able to stay humble, and then when you take that direction, reminding yourself that this isn't like the Kimi show. It's not like the camera's on me just to show me. I'm a cog in this story. And so I think really being involved in the storytelling aspect of it, and then taking that direction more as a, like, okay, we're working together to create this art. How can we get there? And it's like, it's sort of the synergy you have to find, as opposed to making it like, you didn't like what I did, that means you don't think I'm good. It becomes really personal when it's like, it's about creating itself.
Gosh, yes. And that's so important for whatever you do in life. Realizing
tremendous wisdom.
Yes,
Kimmy
I
right
know.
here. You know,
There's so much wisdom. I love it. I'm here for it.
Thank you.
we are running short on time, so I want to make sure we have a chance to mention Kimmy's socials and so forth. But one thing in particular, I didn't cut this clip. We'll put it on the Good Story Live website. It's on Kimmy's website as well. You need to go and watch the 2 commercials she did for the Washington State Lottery. They are both hysterically funny. And maybe I'm being overly, gratifying here, but I really thought, especially one of them, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, very, very funny. Go to her website, go to our website. We'll link to it a little while after the show. It's worth watching. They're very good. I really enjoyed them, Kimmy.
Thank you. They were
Love
fun
it.
to shoot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Kimi Rutledge, everyone. Kimmy, how can people start following you and see all the interesting things you're a part of?
Yeah, so I'm mostly active on my Instagram. You can follow me at Kimi Rutledge, KimiRutledge. Yeah, and that's basically where I post most of it. It's kind of a centralized area. Yeah. And my website, KimiRutledge.com.
Perfect. And all of that stuff, like you said, guys, will be in the description below on this video, as well as on Good Story Live's website. So we will link to all of it so you can go and check it out. It's been lovely talking to you, Kimmy.
Oh, right back at you. This has been great. This is so fun.
Thanks so much for being on Good Story Live. We'll have you back again sometime and talk about more new and exciting projects. So.
I would love that.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. That, ladies and gentlemen, Kimi Rutledge, making her dreams come true in the Pacific Northwest. I love that.
I do too. Oh,
yeah.
That's one of those things that gives me frisson.
Go ahead. I was just saying, like a body of work growing. It's inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say that's something that's one of those things that I experience frisson from, is just seeing people, like, when you can see that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and like when you have that is one of those things that just gives me like goosebumps all over. I love it. It is.
Oh, you know what that means. I always wonder why that doesn't pop up there. Anyway, we're going to be, it splits us. We're going to be having Kevin Fawcett on next week. Kevin Fawcett is an apparel designer. He's created a fashion brand. And we're going to talk to him about how he did it. So
awesome.
That's next week. Right, Ginger?
Yeah, next week. And then
very exciting. We'll have everyone join us then at same time, same place. Ginger, what's the website? How do people connect with us again? You know the stuff better than I do.
Yeah, goodstorylive.com. Everybody, you can see our upcoming episodes. You can see past episodes. It's all there. It's all there at Good Story Live for all of our socials. Check it out.
We got to go. We'll see you next week.
Bye.